Did anyone ever approach you and try to get you to make a deal, drop out of the race, make a deal here, we'll leave you alone?
Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stay in trial, but he could be president. Think of that. He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got...
Hold on, they said what? This nigga here, there he go.
He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got no that. He's incompetent. Basically, they're saying...
That nigga going off on Biden, that nigga going off, that nigga say that man incompetent.
Sheldon, little bootleg ass studio.
I was down on my looking to hit me a lick, ready to get into some since I was a jit. I had big dreams of getting rich. Now we leveling up in this. Take a look at my kicks. You know we stepping on toughest nigga. First one to get hit, don't make me send a blitz. My head is itching for it. Hollow to spit like a list, but wait. Whoa.
Bro, now what's the motherfucking deal? Welcome back to Sheldon's bootleg ass studio where we come to kick it, vibe out, and shoot the shit with Sheldon, man. I appreciate each and every last one of y'all for pulling up. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get up into this video of today. All right, now we have Dr. Phil sitting down with the infamous, notorious Donald Trump. You feel me? And this ought to be pretty interesting. You know what I'm saying? I think I like Donald Trump for all of the wrong reasons, because he's very funny to me. So I don't like him as a president. It don't matter to me if he's president or not. But I like him as a comedian. You know what I'm saying? But if you ask me my opinion, the economy was in much better shape than it is now with Joe Biden and so much other things when Donald Trump was in office. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not a Trump supporter nor a Biden supporter. I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. I don't give a damn about none of that shit. You understand me? But anyway, I digress. Trigger warning for those that's new around here. I will be stopping this video, pausing and interjecting, shooting the shit. That's what I do. I commentate. If you don't want to hear nobody commentating, or if you don't like my commentating, what I'm gonna need you to do is hop up off my video respectfully and search for it yourself, because I have no special privileges. We all have the same internet, and all you got to do is search for it without my commentary. Don't jump in my comment section being rude, telling me what I need to be doing on my channel, because I will get on your dog ass indubitably. And I'm just saying, you know, so you trolls who good for something, you might as well jump up off of my shit and search for it yourself. You feel me? And I say you good for something because the more you complain in my comment section, the more I get paid. It's called engagements. So I ain't tripping either way. And I'm going to respond. So I don't be talking about some, oh, he's triggered. Yeah, whatever. I'm just trying to give you more fuel so you can keep on engaging. You understand me? But I rambled enough. Hit that like button. Sit back. Pop your corn. Spark your situation. Stuff a wet towel up under the door because it's about to get smoky in this motherfucker. And we finna listen to Donald J. Trump do what he do, man. Hopefully he say some funny shit that, you know, I'm sure he gonna do. Anyway, I digress. Let's go and get up into this video right now.
If you ain't fucking with my nigga Sheldon, nigga, fuck you. Yeah.
It's a psychological interview that you're doing too. You're sort of being my psychiatrist.
You've been called every name in the book. Why do you subject yourself to this? What do you say to yourself when the crowds aren't cheering? What is the hardest, darkest moment? There's an addiction to revenge. Nobody would fault you. You can say, it ends here. It ends with me.
Our country's in tremendous danger of World War III, and I don't think I've ever said this on air before.
Last week, 12 jurors were deliberated for 2 days and rendered a verdict finding Donald Trump guilty on all 34 charges of falsifying business records, leading to an unprecedented felony conviction of not only a former president, but also the front-runner nominee for the Republican Party. I traveled to Mar-a-Lago to sit down one-on-one with President Trump for an unfiltered, no-holds-barred interview. And I promise you, no topic was off limits. But I don't endorse candidates, so I want to sit down with President Biden and Kennedy as well, because everybody needs to vote, and not just vote, but make informed votes.
It's an honor to be with you. Let me just say, it's great looking at that dog. I've seen that sucker a long time.
Yeah. You look well.
I feel good.
Do you?
Feel good. No pressure.
Yeah.
It's nice to lead a life of no pressure whatsoever. Yeah. Corruption surrounded by corrupt judges and corrupt politicians. Other than that, there's no pressure.
You know, you and I talked the other night, and I work in trial sciences for a lot of my career, and so I have a particular interest in the dynamics of the trial setting.
You know, it was interesting when you called the other day about doing an interview. A lot of people want to do interviews, and I don't just agree to them very easily. But I've always had great respect for you. I watch your show. Some of the the real good ones and some of the less intellectual ones, and that's okay too. But it's always been, you've always been very special.
He talking about, catch me outside, how about that? Catch me outside, how about that? That's what he talking about. This more of the less intellectual ones.
And I knew that you were, in some form, very much involved with trials. And I found it to be very interesting that you would take this up. It's a very important thing.
Well, I wanted to, and I know that there was some news coming out of Georgia today, there was some news coming out of Florida today, that they're stepping back from this. And
very good news.
I called for the other day, and I don't know if you saw it, but on Merritt Street Media, where I now do my show, I called for President Biden to stop all of this now. And of course, a lot of people said, oh, he can't stop it, it's a state case. Well, okay, that's an explanation for stupid people, but for people that understand how this works behind the scenes and all, I say the same thing. They need to stop this. They need to stop pursuing you. Since you started your campaign in 2015 to run for office, there have been so many attempts to get you off the board even before you started your campaign. Then once you were in office, 2 impeachment opportunities. They changed the rules to try to make it high crimes and misdemeanors if there were business conflicts, and in this case,
Never ends.
It seems to be never ending, and that is a distraction to you. And I really wonder how that affects you. What do you say to yourself about that? Because it seems to never be ending.
It's a never-ending thing. There's a term that I know you've heard many times. It's called Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
And nobody's ever seen anything like it. In one way, we drive them totally crazy because we're doing the right thing. You wonder, why would somebody want to have open borders where people are coming in from jails, prisons, where they're coming in from mental institutions, and as you know better than anyone
Right.
else, they're coming in, they're releasing the people all over the world, not just South America, from mental institutions and jails and prisons, and they're terrorists coming in by the thousands. They're pouring into our country. And who would allow this? You know, it's common sense, not a conservative thing. If they would devote that same skill and talent to making America great again, it would really be a wonderful thing. But in the meantime, we're beating them. You know, you mentioned I got impeached twice, and I won twice very easily, very quickly. We had great support from the Republican Party. I have all these cases. All my life, I didn't have any problem. And all of a sudden, within a matter of months, I end up with 4 cases. Now, of course, it's from the White House and the Department of Justice. They totally control the state case. In fact, I'm not allowed to even be talking about certain aspects of it because I have a gag order. Think of it. I'm the Republican nominee. I was the president, and I'm leading the current Democrat by a lot. And I have a gag order from a local judge that was appointed by the Democrat Party. A local judge. He's a local person, and he is appointed. And he put a gag order in me.
While you're
Nobody's ever
campaigning.
seen anything like it.
While you're campaigning.
While I'm campaigning, like you just mentioned a question that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Right.
Can you imagine? I'm the
He
Republican
kills me with his hands.
nominee, and I'm not allowed to talk because a local judge from New York, appointed by Democrats, said I can't talk about it. It's so unfair. And then he gives a jury charge. Nobody's ever heard of a charge like this. He gave instructions to the jury. And by the way, the jury happened to be in a location.
The fuck Uncle Phil laptop sitting on? I'm talking about Uncle Phil like goddamn doctor. I'm talking about Uncle Phil like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What the hell his laptop sitting on for it to be floating in mid-air like that? That shit wild.
And that was almost no Republicans. You understand that?
Yeah, it's 87-13 in the last 2 elections, Republican. And I know you can't talk about it. I'm not under a gag order. I do know that the number 3 person in the Department of Justice took a pay cut and went down in stature to go to a state job and become one of the lead prosecutors in this case. But yet they say, hey, Dr. Phil, why are you saying that, that President Biden needs to stop all of this? It's a state case. That's exactly why I'm saying it. Don't be naive, people. Understand that there's a power play going on
It's
here.
controlled by the White House and the DOJ, 100%.
You know, Gerard Baker wrote in Wall Street Journal today, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, what do we say to those people that are rejoicing over reducing law to the status of a weapon in the hands of the dominant political power? because that's what's happening right now. It's become a weapon. And that's not what it's intended for. That's not what we need to be doing. I mean, let's let the people decide these, right?
That's right. That was a very good statement in the Wall Street Journal. I read that this morning. And it's so true. I mean, it's so accurate. They've weaponized to a level. They are trying to affect the election by demeaning, hurting in any form. And by the way, I think after the election, the hatred's great enough that they'll go, but with much less enthusiasm. This is about November 5th, which I think is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. If we don't turn this around, we're not going to have a country left anymore.
Well, we're a country of...
I believe that. I mean, look at how shit going down, man. Like, the economy is going to shit. Everything is high. They letting people over here by the thousands. We're on the brink of war. You feel me, with China. We over here funding the war for Ukraine and whoever else. People that got a problem with China's ally, Russia. Like he said, we on the brink of World War III. I think everybody know this. So it's common sense. And if you just take a look back when Trump was in office, none of this shit was going down. Everybody had money. Shit was good. Gas prices was low. You feel me? I'm just saying. I don't agree with 100% of what anybody does on planet Earth. So that goes without saying. But if we're going to do compare and contrast, while who's in office, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, I think it's safe to say Donald Trump had businesses flourishing out here, economy booming, border secured, somewhat anyway. Shit, you feel me? I'm just saying.
Laws, right? I mean, and that's what's made us so orderly. That's what's allowed us to progress forward. And there's something that are called hornbook laws or black letter law that is just, these things have just been around so long. And these were violated in your case, one right after the other. For example, you don't let someone that has been charged in the same case as someone else and they made a plea deal and said, okay, I'm guilty of doing this because they were intimidated into doing it. The lawyer in your case, we don't even need to speak his name, he bartered around out from under 65 years, looking at 65 years of imprisonment down to 3 years and 2 years on this case and a tax case. So went from 65 years down to 5 years in exchange for giving them testimony against you. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. Pecker making a deal, a non-prosecution agreement. That's not supposed to come in, but it did. That got into the jury box. They got to hear all of that. And so they say, well, you know, if we're not down here for the reasons they're saying, then we need an alternative explanation, which they're not allowed to get.
I knew nothing of what Dr. Phil was talking about. But is Dr. Phil being, is he being neutral or is he pretty much a Trump supporter? You know what I'm saying? He said he want to interview Biden and the other candidate as well, but you know what I'm saying? Or is he just giving the facts? Is he just giving the facts?
Because your expert witness that was going to come in and say, as a former chairman of the Election Commission, was going to say this was looked at. There's no issues here. They didn't allow that person to talk, to testify. And I'm looking at this saying, how is the jury supposed to solve this problem if they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle?
They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't talk to him. They didn't want to hear his testimony. They knew what he was going to say. He was going to say it was
that was coerced.
And very importantly, when they tell somebody, you're going to jail for 15 years, unless you say bad things about this guy named Trump.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, in all fairness, we know a lot of...
You can come up with some shit. You could come up with some shit.
People. But you don't know too many that would say, I'm not going to do what they want. Yeah. He goes up to somebody and they say, Dr. Phil, you're going to jail for 15 years unless you say bad things about Trump. And if you say the bad things, you're not going to jail at all. In fact, we're going to make you a hero. Or you're going to go for 3 months, or you're going to go for a short period of time. How many people are there that say, I'm not going to do that? There have been people.
Yeah, that's right.
And those are, in my opinion, these are great people.
It's called integrity. Doing the right thing, even when no one's looking, or just when it's the hardest thing to do at the time. That integrity speaks louder than, anything.
They've done to people that work for me is incredible. Yeah. Incredible. The threats.
People in the streets would call it not snitching.
The taking of a gentleman who's been with me for years and telling me he's going to jail for 15 years unless they say, and he went back to jail a second time. I guess they didn't want him to testify. I don't know what happened exactly, but the threats that they made to this man, they've destroyed his life. These are fascists. These are really bad people, Phil. But who's going to do it? You're going to jail for 15 years, or you're going to go for 30 days or 40 days, or you're going to go for no time, but you have to say bad things about Trump.
Yeah, and that's intimidation. And some of these people, you look at their age, you look at their health, and for some of them it could be a death sentence. And so they make a deal, and that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say prosecutorial abuse. Did anyone ever approach you and try to get you to make it?
Oh, so now they got a name for it, but when it was happening to black people all these years, that was just giving out the football numbers, you know what I'm saying? Giving kids more time than they didn't even live, you know what I'm saying? Giving 15 and 16-year-olds 40 and 50, 60 years, or maybe even life for some shit they may or might not even done, you know what I'm talking about? Now they got prosecutorial abuse, you know what I'm saying? Now we got that, but all of a sudden, but back then.
Deal, drop out of the race, make a deal here, we'll leave you alone.
No, they didn't, but I believe they would. If I would have offered that up, I think they know me well enough. I really do, but.
Hold on. He asked, Dr. Phil asked Trump if they offered him a deal, basically.
People, you look at their age, you look at their, and that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say prosecutorial abuse. Did anyone ever approach you and try to get you to make a deal, drop out of the race, make a deal here, we'll leave you alone?
No, they didn't, but I believe they would. If I would have offered that up, I think they know me.
See, they can't ask him to drop out of the race, because then that will reveal their hand. You see what I'm saying? That will show their agenda right there, because they really don't want him to run. And so they can't do that. So they got to do other things to deter him from running, discourage him, you know what I'm saying, from running.
Well enough, I really do. But, if I didn't run, as an example, I would have never had any of these lawsuits. How about I get prosecuted on a person that I have no idea who she is? I have no idea who she is. I have to pay $91 million. And that judge was just as bad.
Who are you talking about, Stormy Daniels?
Just as corrupt. A corrupt judge. I have to pay $91 million to a woman. I have no idea who she is. She wrote a book and she made a statement in the book. And you know that case. That case is a disaster. And then but I have no idea who she is.
He have no idea who she is. Hold on, y'all. I just gotta make sure. Jean Carroll. Okay, Jean Carroll case. Approval of the bond puts Trump one step close to preventing Carroll from collecting on the $83 million judgment in her favor in the case goes. Okay, so it's not Stormy Daniels. I'm sure y'all may know. I just didn't know. Okay, well, let's proceed. Hit that like button. Let's go.
They said I did things. These people are corrupt and in some cases incompetent, but it's such an honor to have somebody like you see it and see it so clearly. And I knew that, I mean, I remember that years ago.
Okay, so hold on. What is the Jean Carroll case for those that don't know? We'll find out. It say judge approves Trump's $91 million bond in E. Jean Carroll case. All right, so real quick. Says a federal judge on Tuesday approved Donald Trump's $91.63 million bond in the E. Jean Carroll case, insulating the former president from any effort to collect the judgment while he appeals the verdict. Trump now has 5 days to file a copy of the approved bond with the court clerk for the yada, yada, yada. I'm trying to find the meat and potatoes. What is this about? Trump's lawyer filed notice this month. Will appeal the verdict. Okay, and they filed in this week. Attorneys has secured yada, yada, yada. Carroll previously celebrated news. A jury ruled in January that Trump must pay Carroll $83.3 million in damages for defamation. It was the second verdict in favor of Carroll against Trump. In May, he was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming her. She was awarded $5 million in damages. So this what happened. The appeals process in the latest defamation case is set to get underway after Trump and his company risked another financial hit with a $464 million judgment in the New York civil fraud case. Trump is appealing that judgment as well. Okay, so yeah, that's what happened with that. All right, y'all, and let's continue. For those that didn't know that, like me, because I just had to get it real quick.
You were helping Oprah out, and she was sued, and it was having a big impact on her.
Mad cow.
And I thought it was great. And you know, Oprah used to really like me. She was here many times. Yeah. She loved my key lime pie. We have key lime pie, and she loved a lot of things about Mar-a-Lago. Yeah. And Roger King, as you know.
Yeah, we were here.
He said Oprah loved her key lime pie. Loved his key lime pie.
Funeral for Roger
Correct.
King.
Long time ago. It's the only funeral we've ever had at Mar-a-Lago. I said, maybe we can do a new business here. Yeah. We'll operate as a funeral parlor. But it was one of the most beautiful funerals in the ballroom behind us. And he was a great guy. And Oprah's terrific. But once I announced I was running, and I said we have to have strong borders, we have to have this, we have to have that. Yeah. We've sort of lost contact, as the expression goes. But I remember when you were very much involved in helping Oprah, and that's really the first thing I thought when you called about this horrible witch hunt. That, in all fairness, they've had going against me for years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's been time and time again. And you know, that was another black letter law that you just don't do. The judge tells you, okay, you can testify, but I'm going to allow them to ask you about this person that you now owe $91 million. I'm going to allow them to ask you about this other case. I'm going to allow them to ask you about 10 contempt citations that I've given you. I'm going to allow them to ask about all that stuff. What does any of that have to do with the matters at hand? And the answer is zero. That gets into the jury box if you take the witness stand. Again, that is black letter law. You can't let in unrelated things that have more prejudicial impact than probative nature. That just doesn't happen, but it happened 1, 2, 3 things right in a row, right. And that gets into the jury box.
If you testify, they'll be able to ask you about all these different things. And by the way, if you say one thing if you say it was a beautiful day, as I remember it, and it was raining out, we're going to indict you for perjury.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I have a lot of lawyers that are friends and this and that. I had probably 25 guys over the course of a couple of months say, whatever you do, don't testify, because you'll say something that's a little bit off, and you will be indicted for lying, for perjury. These are evil people. These are sick, evil people.
I would have thrown myself in front of your car to keep you from testifying.
No, I know. I wanted to so badly. And by the way, I would have loved to have testified about those things because it was so corrupt and so horrible. But he wouldn't have allowed me to answer the questions properly. No. And so I would have loved to have testified. I wanted to. I'm telling you, they had to hold me back. But
they had to hold you back, Trump.
Every lawyer that came, they'd always start to say, by the way, I'm a friend of yours, don't testify. And they saw what he was doing. They can ask you about like anything. They can do nothing to do with this case. All of these outside things. And it was really an unfair trial. There's a very brilliant judge in Florida that's holding the government. It looks like, I mean, she's looking into what happened, because, you know, they raided Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And they took stuff out by the satchel. I mean, they took bags and bags of stuff. And I said, what are they taking? Are they saying what they're taking? Because they can add things. They can add the nuclear codes in there. They say, hey, he had the nuclear codes. And this was all stuff that...
Don't give them no ammunition. Don't give them no ideas, Trump.
It's a Records Act I'm allowed to do. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that. He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got...
Hold on, they said, what? This nigga here, there he go. It took him a minute. That nigga had to warm up. That nigga say, they say this man incompetent to stand trial, but he can be president. How the fuck that happened? Tell me he lying, y'all, because, man, if they did that, boy, America, we screwed.
Hey, he had the nuclear codes. And this was all stuff that under the Presidential Records Act I'm allowed to do. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president.
So did, man, here just say Biden was exonerated, but I don't want to be exonerated the same way he was exonerated, because they said that this man was Looney Tunes, but he was not that much Looney Tunes. He could still run the country. I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's making us that's putting us in a bad spot as a country. You know what I'm saying? Like, our country already in bad shape. So we don't need no Looney Tune out here running the damn country. That man just said what he said, y'all. For one more time for the ones in the back who didn't hear it.
The codes in there. They say, hey, he had the nuclear codes. And this was all stuff that under the Presidential Records Act I'm allowed to do. By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that.
Think of that.
He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got no that.
Dr. Phil must be a Trump supporter, because look at how when Trump said that, Phil was like, shit, you right, man. That don't make no goddamn sense. That's foolish. They let this nut run the country.
Competent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that. He's not.
He rolled his eyes. He just showed which party he with. Hey, I think I ain't for neither one of them. I don't even vote. Be 1,000 with you. Not presidentially. You feel me? I don't give a damn. I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? It's just me. I ain't telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I do personally, or what I don't do, rather. But it seems like my boy Dr. Phil out here riding on the Trump train, man.
He's not sharp enough, got no memory, got no this, got no that. He's incompetent. Basically, they're saying,
that nigga going off on Biden. That nigga going off. That nigga say that man incompetent.
He can't stand trial due to incompetence, but he can run for president. What's going on?
Yeah.
What are we missing here?
Yeah, it makes everybody uncomfortable about that state of affairs. And what I was concerned about with everything that happened in this New York trial is one of the big myths is that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. Mm-hmm. That is the law. But I can tell you, after years and years and years of trial, the truth is that the jury sits there and says,
what's the truth, Dr.
I'm looking at all this, and if we're not down here for the reason they say we're down here, somebody needs to give me an alternative explanation of why we are down here. So if we're not down here because of what the prosecutors are telling us, then what's the alternative story? What's the alternative explanation? And when you get muzzled in the way that this judge muzzled this case, they're sitting there saying, what's the rest of the story? You're not allowed to testify because you're in jeopardy if you do. They let all of this other stuff in that should never get into the jury box. And so, you know, the scales get tipped. And it gets very, very difficult to get even one juror because there's not an alternative story that if you could tell without being in peril, if you can tell without being intimidated, it would be a very different situation. The burden legally is on the prosecution. But logically,
You're
with the
guilty
jury,
until proven innocent.
that's
basically what
exactly the
happened.
truth.
I can tell you that's the truth with me.
That's how it
what
plays
happened.
out. And I did a focus group about this when I did a show on this on Merritt Street, and I had 250 people in, did a focus group, and I said, and overwhelmingly the people were in your favor. But I found those that had questions, and I said, what is your question? They said, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
I didn't hear
I
the other
understand
part
that.
of it.
I'm sitting here, and you've asked me indirectly a couple of questions. They're so simple to answer. I'd love to. And yet, if I do, this guy's he's willing to throw you in jail. Okay, this is an appointed judge acting. He's an acting judge, appointed, and he's willing to throw you. And he's so conflicted. It's so sad. But you know.
Trump talking about the man. Is it still an open case or whatever? I don't know what's going on, y'all. Shit. I know it's already they convicted him, so he's still waiting for sentencing. Is that what it is?
You do things for your country, and I view it. I think if my country weren't involved, because people say the two questions I get these questions from very tough guys like you, the biggest guys on Wall Street. You know, people that you read about, you know, but they're tough men and women. But I have the question asked often is number one question I get, how do you stand it? How do you do it? How do you get up in the morning and put your clothing on and go to work? I do get that because people don't envy it. And the other one I get is, will they do it again? Meaning, will they cheat? Will they do it again? Will it happen again?
Well, I have a different question than
He said, will they cheat?
Our question.
He's standing on it. He said, will they do it again? Will they cheat?
My question is why? I understand how. I know you got a thick skin. You're not one of those people that's afflicted with the need to be loved by strangers. I get that.
I think that's true.
My question is not how do you do it. My question is why do you do it? Why do you, because let's face it, I mean, you're a billionaire, you got a great family, you're a very dedicated father. People may not see this in you a lot because you keep that kind of private, but my question to you is why do you subject yourself to this? If you want to see more of our conversation, we have an app, Merit Plus. It's free. Download.
Well, that is.
Sheldon, little bootleg ass studio.
Well, the Trumpster. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment section below, man. If you vibed all the way out to the end, I really do appreciate you. Yes, indeed. Until next time, I'm SheldonVybez. I need y'all to be cool at the other side of the pillow. Stay light on your toes like you're supposed. Oh, yeah, no.
If you ain't fucking with my nigga Sheldon, nigga, fuck you. Yeah.
God.